How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to Movies from A to Z. And today the letter K stands for King Creole, a 1958 Paramount release starring the one and only Elvis Presley. Okay, this is based on a novel by Harold Robbins called A Stone for Danny Fisher, and that's the name of the character that Elvis plays. In the novel, the story takes place in New York City, and Danny Fisher is a young guy who becomes a boxer. But they decided to take the location to New Orleans, and Danny Fisher becomes a singer, so Elvis can sing, which he does quite often. So in the story, Danny Fisher is a high school senior who is, of course, Elvis is a little bit too old to be a high school senior, but, you know, you just kind of let your imagination run away with you. But he works part-time as a busboy at a nightclub in the French Quarter, and his family is very poor. His father, Dean Jagger, is a pharmacist who was having trouble finding a job, so they had to downsize and move into a really shabby apartment. And so one night, Danny Fisher gets the chance to sing, and he goes over very well. The owner of the nightclub, the name of the character escapes me, but it's played by Walter Matthau, an evil businessman, money-hungry gangster who likes to control people's lives, including his girlfriend, played by Carolyn Jones, who is a down-on-her-luck singer who is really at the lowest point in her life. She's basically controlled by Walter Matthau, who treats her terribly. So anyway, this Danny Fisher gets a chance to sing, and he gets offered a job by Walter Matthau's character. And he also gets offered a job by a club down the street called King Creole, owned by a man named Paul Stewart. Well, that's an actor named Paul Stewart. I forget his character's name as well, who's a much nicer guy. So Danny decides to go and work for him. Well, Walter Matthau is trying to find a way to get Danny to come back down the street to be under his control. So that's part of the tension in the film. Danny has conflicts with his father, who wants him to get out of the nightclub life and not become a singer, instead go to school and be a professional, which Danny doesn't want to do. He also gets involved with two different women. One of them happens to be the Carolyn Jones character, and who is a little bit older than Danny and just really miserable with her life, and sees him as kind of a chance to have a different kind of life with a nicer young guy. And also a young woman he meets in a drugstore, played by Dolores Hart. This is a character named Nellie, who is a very sweet virgin who falls in love with Danny the first time she sees him. So he's got all these things going on. He gets involved in a crime early in the film, which comes back to haunt him later on. And it's a very good story. It's hard for a lot of people to believe now that Elvis Presley, when he started out as an actor, very soon after he became this rock and roll phenomenon back in '56, he made a film called Love Me Tender, which was basically a dramatic film with some music. And then he made two other films after that in 1957, a film called Loving You and another one called Jailhouse Rock, both very serious films with a lot of music. So then he did King Creole, and he said later on in his life that of all the films that he made, this is the one that he was most proud of. He did a very good job in this film. It's kind of you can tell that he's just learning how to be an actor, but he really puts a lot of effort into it, and he's very good in a lot of his scenes. He was directed by a man named Michael Curtiz, who is a classic director from the Golden Era, going all the way back to the silent days. And he directed films like Captain Blood with Errol Flynn, Casablanca, Mildred Pierce with Joan Crawford, several Betty Davis films such as, let's see, Front Page Woman, 20,000 Years in Sing Sing, and some others which escape me right now. He also did films like Mystery of the Wax Museum, and even a couple of musicals before this called Yankee Doodle Dandy, White Christmas. So he had done every genre that existed, really. So when he first found out that he was going to be working with Elvis Presley, he wasn't very happy. But as soon as he got to know the kid and realized how sincere he was about trying to give a good performance, he really came to respect him and said that he had the potential to be a great actor. And I have to agree, in these early films, I don't know, I think very different than the Elvis Presley you would see in the following years, when he was basically just making one not too substantial musical after another. Elvis Presley was drafted into the Army right about the time when he was going to make this film, but Paramount Studios managed to convince the government that they should give him a deferment so he could make the movie. So they did. They gave him 60 days. and then he went into the Army right after. And his manager, Colonel Tom Parker, when Elvis got out of the Army, he made a film called G.I. Blues, which was a very lighthearted comedy. And then he made another couple of serious films, one of which was Flaming Star in 1960, directed by Don Siegel, a Western. Then he did something called Wild in the Country in 1961, where he played opposite Tuesday Weld, a script by Clifford Odets. Those films did not do very well at the well, they did okay, but not as well as G.I. Blues, and then the one that came after, which was Blue Hawaii. So Colonel Tom Parker saw the handwriting on the wall and all the dollar signs, and he followed the money. He said, okay, we're going to remake G.I. Blues and Blue Hawaii over and over again. So that's exactly what they did, and that was pretty much the end for Elvis as a serious actor. I don't know why he gave up, or he just said to Colonel Parker, yes sir, even though the guy wasn't really a colonel, nor was his name really Tom Parker, but that's another video. But Elvis didn't attempt to do another film until 1968 when he did a Western called Charo. So his film career was very profitable, but very, well, kind of uninteresting after that. I guess you had to be a hardcore Elvis fan during those years of the 1960s in order to keep going to see those films. But when this film was first going to be made back in 1955, producer Hal Wallace was trying to get James Dean to play it. Of course, James Dean did not survive 1955. Then he went after another young actor named Ben Gazzara, who was just starting out, and finally went to Elvis Presley. So what else I want to say about this? Let's see. Okay, so the supporting actors, well, I would say supporting actors, they cast really interesting and talented and experienced actors in this film to surround Elvis Presley with a lot of talent to make him look better, and I think it actually worked. Carolyn Jones, Walter Matthau, Dean Jagger, Dolores Hart, and Vic Morrow, who had made a big splash in his first film, Blackboard Jungle, a couple years before. And now Carolyn Jones was a really talented and well thought of actress during that period. She was slowly building up her reputation. She started out in 1950 doing smaller parts, and then by 1957 she was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress in a film called The Bachelor Party. So she was very much well thought of during that time and very unusual looking, and gave a great performance in this film, as does Walter Matthau. So I don't know what else I want to say about this. The music, a lot of the music is really good. And a #1 hit for Elvis came out of this film. A song called Hard Headed Woman went straight to #1. And let's see what else. Film was made in black and white. Beautiful cinematography. Michael Curtiz wanted to make it in a film noir type style, the same way he had made Mildred Pierce. And this can't be classified as a film noir, but it does have that kind of cinematography. Beautiful to look at. So if you don't know much about Elvis Presley as a serious actor, which was a very brief time in his career, you might want to check this out. And also films like Jailhouse Rock and Loving You, Wild in the Country, and see what could have been a very, very prolific, talented, serious actor instead of, G.I. Blues. So give it a shot. King Creole, let me know if you've seen it, what you think, and I'm going to shut this off here.